Hi everyone, Materim here again with another narrative battle. This one is a team battle. My Empire and Vampire counts team up to take on Tomb Kings and the Beastmen in a 3,000 point pitch battle where each of the forces has 1,500 points to add to their side's total of 3,000. We're also going to be using the magic rules from the End Times Khaine book in here as well, so it should be interesting. Hierophant Hespu made his way through the beastman camp, not bothered by the howls and wails of the chaos beasts, nor the screams of their tortured captives. He passed a large gorgon who sat upon a stone with what looked to be half a dark elf in each of its gigantic hands. He had made contact with the tribe's leader, a Bray shaman named Morgor, and was here with an audience with him. As he approached the center of the camp, he saw Morgor talking to one of his Minotaur followers. The Minotaur grunted something that Hespo could not understand and moved behind the shaman as the Hierophant approached. "You speak with Morgor, dead thing," the shaman spoke to the Lich Priest. "I appreciate you taking time to meet with me. I shall make this brief. I have been sent by my king, Neb-Uki, with a gift and a request. He has heard of your issues with the Empire humans. We are also aware that vampires under the control of Nagash's pawn, Mounthaven, may be lending aid to them. My king has no love for Nagash or his vampires, and the humans possess some items that were taken long ago from our lands that must be reclaimed. So we offer an alliance of sorts. We would assist you in striking on the humans. You would get more slaves, and we would get our items returned." "I am intrigued, dead one. I have no wish to see Nagash have influence here, and the more my tribe grows, the closer I am to my goals as well. You speak of a gift?" "Ah, yes." Hespu waved his hand, and there was a tremendous howl from the entrance to the tribe's clearing. Two massive bone giants had appeared, pulling a large stone on a wagon. The stone was causing the large whoops and howls. "Our prince found this in a remote region of the Badlands. I hesitated to move it. However, I felt the herd stone would be of better use here with you," Hespu said with almost a smile on his face. It was hard to hear Morgor over the sounds of his tribe's howling, but the Lich Priest understood the last part of his sentence. "We have a deal." So here is the battlefield in which the Tomb Kings have led the Beastmen to fight the forces of the Empire at Loningsbrook. This takes place in the forest just north of the city. As you can see, it's a very open area, though there are 4 forests in this battle and one ghost fence off to the side. And as we rolled, each of the forests ended up being a wildwood. So there are 4 wildwoods on the table and one ghost fence. It's definitely an open area. I was very surprised at how small my opponent's armies are. They both went with very focused point values, or very focused units for their point values. So there's few units, whereas on my side I'm filling up almost my whole half of the table. So I definitely can assume that what they're bringing is pound for pound stronger than what I've got. But I'm hoping I'll just be able to drown them in bodies and pull a win out that way. So we're going to start with the deployment of the Beastmen, and just to let everybody know, from this point on in the narrative, we're actually allowing Michael to use the Marks rule on his Beastmen from the Chaos United without it necessarily having to be a Chaos United army. So we're starting off here with Zola, the Mighty Gorgon. He is Mark Zinch right now. Next to him is a 40-man Gore Herd with full command and shields, also Mark Zinch. With that unit is the Beast Lord Morgrul with Armor of Destiny, Ram's Horn Helm, the Steel Claws, and his Mark Zinch. Also, there is the Bray Shaman Or no, the Bray Shaman, sorry, is in the forest there. He's level 2 to the Wild, Lore of Tzeentch with the Hag Tree Fetish and the Shadowhide. There's BSB in there on the corner, the gray one, who's a Wargore BSB with the Armor of Fortune, Shield, and Mark Tzeentch. Everything in this army is Mark Tzeentch, so relatively small group there, but very potent. Then the Beastmen army finishes up with 3 Minotaur with full command, additional hand weapons, and they are also Mark Tzeentch. Behind that starts the Tomb King's army with a Tomb Prince with the Biting Blade, Armor of Fortune, and Dragon's Bane gem on the back of a Cimmerian War Sphinx. Now, I don't know if he has any upgrades on it because I don't really know the Cimmerian War Sphinx very well. Next to that, you can see his Screaming Skull Catapult. And, well, I guess I'll get to the archers in the next show. Oh, and FYI, the Tomb Prince on the War Sphinx is his general. Next, he has a unit of 10 skeleton archers, and his Hierophant is in there. Lich High Priest with the Warrior's Bane, Sword, Talisman of Preservation, Cloak of the Dunes, and he's a level 4 to the Lore of Nehekara. And I think that's awesome because he does not have enough bodies in there to protect it, so I'm very happy about that. Next, there's another unit of 10 Skeletal Archers. Both Skeletal Archers units have musicians in them. Behind that is the Casket of Souls. And then his last unit is a big old unit of 5, it looks like 4 skeleton chariots. He also has a Tomb Herald with the Standard of the Undying Legion as his BSB and a chariot there as well. So total of 5 chariots. And I'm looking at that as being the scariest thing on this side of the board. So I know I need to handle that chariot unit very proactively so I get the drop on it rather than vice versa. So starting with my deployment, I have a unit of 5 Direwolves vanguarded up. In the Wildwood here, you can barely see it. I have a Hellblaster rocket, not rocket battery, the volley gun, the good one, that's hiding there in the forest. Then I've got a unit of 20 zombies with musician and standard. In front of them is a spirit host. Next to that is a unit of 15 spearmen with 2 8-man archer detachments in front of that. With that group is my Captain of the Empire, who's a battle standard bearer. Only upgrade I gave him was a longbow. And in the front unit of archers is my level 4 wizard Felix Weishoff, Talisman of Preservation, level 4 to the Lore of Light. I think he's going to help me out a lot since we're using the Khaine rules. There's a lot of good spells in there. Next to that is a unit of 30 skeletal warriors with full command and the Screaming Banner. Next to that is a unit of 10 Black Knights with full command. Hanging out with them is my Vampire Lord, Lord Alessandro Mounthaven, with the Ogre Blade, the Night Shroud, the Iron Curse Icon, Quick Blood, Red Fury, and the Lore of Vampires. He's a level 1. Then I've got a Corpse Cart behind that unit. Next to that unit is 2 bases of Fell Bats, which is a single unit, and another Spirit Host. In front of them, vanguarded up is a unit of 5 Pistoliers with an Outrider, who has brace of repeater pistols. In front of that is a vanguarded up unit of 5 more dogs. Next to that in the forest is 5 Hex Wraiths. And then off behind the forest, scouted out, is my 10 Halfling Huntsmen. And then back on my line, I have a unit of 10 Empire Inner Circle Knights with full command. With them is my Templar Grand Master with the Sword of Strife and the Dawnstone, and the Warrior Priest Aaron of Tal with no upgrades. So given that they were the attacking force, it was fitting that the Tomb Kings and the Beastmen go first. Start off the turn with Zola attempting to charge my chap here. He rolls terribly, fails his charge, and ends up just in front of the ghost fence. And then the rest of that giant brick of Beastmen comes just charging forward. He realizes with my knights all being on the other side, this is my weaker flank. So he definitely wants to put as much pressure as he can. I'm just hoping that the Hellblaster will be able to do enough damage to thin them out, and maybe my 2 units of spearmen can handle them once they get here. And on this side, everything starts moving towards my right, where all the knights are. He wants to bring as much pain to bear as he can. And he basically moved his wizard out of the forest because he's going to be casting spells, ideally, and doesn't want the Wildwood to beat him to death. And now the one thing here I was surprised at is that my opponent chose to be so cautious with his chariots. He didn't move them up at all. Left me a pretty long charge with with anything basically to hit him, but he didn't even try coming for me first. So I think he was just hoping that I would try and charge. I would fail, and he would be able to counterattack. So despite the number of dice, I managed to hold my opponents to 0 magic. They get nothing off. We are playing how the rules should work, according to the rulebook, that if a spell is dispelled, you can't continue it. So they basically whipped a bunch of their dice trying to get the casket spell off on the hex wraiths to kill them, and I needed those hex wraiths alive, so they were like 1-dicing it, I was 1-dicing it, and with my level 4, I was just going to keep shutting that down. And it didn't end up doing much, or actually I think what he did is he finally ended up miscasting with it. But I rolled low enough where I didn't take any wounds, and then their spells were pretty much over, and I shut everything else down. So then we go into the first part of shooting, and the first unit of 10 archers kills 3 of the dogs, and the second group of archers finish off the other 2. So 1 unit of chaff down, but again, I've got a lot of chaff on this side. I'm not all that concerned about it. So we go into my turn 1, and I know I need to get those hex wraiths into the chariots, and I do it. 3 dice for the charge doesn't make it hard to do, even when you need an 8 or a 9. So I come slamming in there. My only concern is maybe because we do play with closed lists, so I didn't know if his BSB in there had any magic weapons. But with the way my opponent cursed when I made the charge, I was figuring I was probably pretty safe. Everything up here is coming up at a decent clip. I don't want to go into either of those forests, so I'm kind of compacting myself. I do move up the Pistoliers and my Huntsmen close enough where they can start thinning down the one archer group. And I'm hoping to use magic to just destroy that other archer group because his Hierophant's in there. And if I can take out his Hierophant pretty quick, that would be awesome because he is playing just a Tomb King's army, so no Undead Legion rules here. So if the Hierophant dies, he is going to start to crumble. And there's nothing I don't like about that. I think my opponent tried to take a lot of toys and didn't really bring enough bodies to keep his toys safe. So I'm totally going to capitalize on that. And over here, I'm not really interested in moving much of anything up. I just kind of turn things a little so they're looking more towards his big group of Beastmen coming by. And I did move up my caster in his unit there, so I've got a line of sight on pretty much everything to throw my magic wherever I really need it to go. And then over here, I move my dogs up to guard the fence so that he's going to charge into me next turn, and he'll at least get the -1 to hit me, so maybe I'll survive. But I probably doubt it, but at any rate, he's frenzied, so it'll send him running off in the wrong direction. And I'm okay with that. We'll keep the big monster out of combat for as long as we can. So I get a bunch of dice. My first spell, I like a two or three dice Shem's Burning Gaze on his small unit of archers with the Hierophant in it. End up miscasting it, kill a few of his, and then get the template on my guys. So I kill off half of my wizard's archer guardsmen. But luckily I don't get sucked into the warp. So I just lose a few more dice and the magic phase can continue. And a couple more banishments and Shem's Burning Gaze later, and there is no more guardians on the Hierophant, and the Hierophant is stuck there with one wound out of his 3 on him. So now he's within range of my Pistoliers, and my aim is to go ahead and just open up with everything I got and get him off the board turn 1. And the Pistoliers do their job and blow his undead butt away. So Hierophant dead on turn 1, which is the only level 4 they have on that side. They had a level 4 Hierophant and a level 2 Beast Mage. I had a level 4 Light Mage and a level 1 Vampire. So I have a major advantage in the magic phase from this point forward. During the remainder of the shooting, Hellblaster Volley Gun opens up on the Gore unit. I think I peel the back rank off, 5 or 6 of them, but I wasn't shooting that great. And so we go into combat. There's nothing in this unit that can hurt my Hex Wraiths, so they swing. And at the end of it, between the wounds and combat res, I end up killing 1 of the 5 chariots in this group. So Beastmen TK turn 2 starts off with the Gorgon charging the front of my hounds, which are direwolves, which frankly, yeah, go ahead. They're 40, 50 points. He can have them. And the Beastmen, they either attempted to charge the Archer unit with my Wizard in it or the Hellblaster, I don't remember which, but he rolls very badly and just saunters up a little bit. And then during his normal moves, he starts bringing the Minotaurs for this line as well as his Shaman. And he's going to try and use some of his magic to Bestial Surge himself right up into my face. And over here, start of the turn, Crumble only crumbled 1 archer off that front unit. So he was doing pretty good. He moves over his general on the Sphinx to give his bubble for leadership for the crumble. As well as he wants to get a charge on the flank of the Hex Wraiths soon with that general who does have magic weapons. So I'm hoping I can kill more of these chariots before that happens. So during magic, he does end up using Bestial Surge to get his guys up some, which is actually good because it presents the flank of his Minotaurs to some of my stuff on that side, particularly the Knight unit with my Vampire Lord in it. And he ends up doing Vile Tide on the Ghosts and ends up inflicting 2 points of 2 wounds on them. So not terrible. So during combat, the Hex Wraiths go to town. 2 more of the chariots die, and I reform like this. So there's 1 chariot, and the one with his BSB on it is all that's left in this unit. And then, of course, the Gorgon stomps a mud hole in my Direwolves and overruns. He actually overran here, and then we realize that he has the blood thirst rule or whatever it is, like the Minotaurs do, so he only overruns like D6 inches. So he actually ends up with his back end touching the fence in the next shot. So going into my turn 2, like I said, the Bestial Surge put his Minotaurs right in a perfect flank shot from my Black Knights, so they come on in. And, I have a tried and true freaking Blender Lord here. In the flank of a group of Minotaurs, he's going to eat them alive, and they'll be in pretty bad shape. And realizing that I have a big advantage here, I press up. I bring the Spirit Host back because I don't really want to lose the points on there. I'm using the bats to help support anything that gets into close combat. I'm going to run the bats into it and give it always strikes last. I move the Pistoliers up so that they're within short range of those archers because I'm just going to shoot them to death. And I'm hoping the Hex Wraiths will be able to finish off the last 2 chariots before next turn when I'm going to catch that Sphinx in the flank. But even if I don't, I think they've earned their points back by this point. So I'm pretty okay with that. And this is pretty much where I've reorganized everything here. My Wizard has fallen back and joined the Spearmen. I put the Hex Wraiths up there to redirect the Gore Herd in case things go bad with these Minotaurs. I don't want them to be able to come in and help. And everything else just kind of gets ready. And the Corpse Cart here moves up so that it's within 6 inches of the back corner of the Black Knight unit, so I can throw some spells and maybe get some always strikes first on the unit too. And then at the end of the movement phase, the Wildwood turns around and beats the hell out of my Hellblaster, killing 2 of the 3 crewmen. So then, during my magic phase, I get a lot of dice. First thing that happens is my Vampire Lord tries to cast I think it was Hellish Vigor to get rerolls to wound, and triggers the. This is the forest where, like, if you cast spells in it, it beats you and then moves off. So it kills one of the night, one or two of the knights, and then runs off over there. So now my bats and my spirit host are in it now, and it was funny. It just beat the hell out of them and ran off. And so, other than that, it wasn't a great magic phase, so they kept me down. So we go into shooting. Pistoliers just open up on this group of skeletons and leave one unkilled. I was just like, no. I really like these. This is the first time me ever using pistoliers. I really like them. They pack a huge amount of punch for 5 dudes. And then with my Hellblaster volley gun, I decided to just go ahead and open up on his caster that was there in the middle of things. And needless to say, I did something like 20 wounds to him. Just blew him to Kingdom Come. So now my opponents have... The only magic they've got is the bound spell in the Casket of Souls and the bound spell in the Banner of the Undying Legion. And I'm okay with that, because now it means I'm just going to rule the magic phase, and they're probably not going to get anything off from this point in the game. Oh, and you can see what spells I had there. I forgot to talk about finishing my magic phase. But yeah, I ended up getting some little buffs off. I think I got Hellish Vigor, Speed of Battle. Yeah, Hellish Vigor and Speed of Battle off. And Hellish Vigor was... The Corpse Cart was included, so it ended up giving... the unit always strikes first. So they're like, weapon skill 10, initiative skill 10, always strikes first. He did challenge me out. But, yeah, my Vampire Lord, Lord Mounthaven, just ate those Minotaurs. Minotaurs broke, ran, I caught them, and ended up catching the flank of the Bestigor unit. So this is me after I've closed the door there, and they're still all buffed up, so it's going to be a bad day for those Bestigor, or those Gore. They're not Bestigor, I'm sorry, they're normal Gore. It's going to be a bad day for them, I think. So, top of 3, the Gorgon comes back around to maybe set up for next turn a charge in the flank of the Knights there. And in comes the Tomb Prince on the War Sphinx into the flank of the Hex Wraiths. And I did forget to go. God, I'm missing out on some pictures this week. But I did kill the other chariot, so the only thing left there is his BSB chariot. And then he comes slamming in with his prince and the Chimerian War Sphinx. And I pretty much think that's the end of the Hex Wraiths. So during his magic phase, he does manage to he does manage to get off the casket spell, and it does kill one of my knights here in the back. And then during combat on this side, pretty much as I assumed, that prince with the War Sphinx, plus the extra combat res for the charge in the side, was enough to just totally own the Hex Wraiths, and the prince and the BSB turn to look at my approaching Empire forces here. Then on this side, his BSB has to declare a challenge because they have Eye of the Gods with the rules we're playing. My Vampire Lord accepts, and the Beast Lord actually ends up getting 2 wounds off on him. I don't kill... Yeah, I don't kill... Or no, sorry, it's Morgor. Yeah, it's Morgor that steps up. So Morgor gets 2 wounds on my Vampire Lord. My Vampire Lord whiffed like crazy, did not kill Morgor. But my normal knight striking on initiative 10, weapon skill 10, managed to kill his BSB. And then the rest of the unit just does... I take off another rank and a half, but they do stay because they are steadfast. So my turn 3, I charge the Pistoliers into the Casket of Souls, mainly to get them out of the way, so that I could charge his BSB with my Knights. And I end up getting both of those charges successfully, and I bring up the Bats and the Spirit Host in case anyone needs an assist. And at this point, the Beastmen side of the flank is pretty much going to be over, so I just move the Hellblaster out of the woods so I can save the points there so the trees don't beat me to death. And everything else, I'm presenting a solid line as I push to get in the face of those beastmen just in the off chance that the Black Knights and my Vampire Lord don't finish chewing that unit up. So during my magic phase, I got a ridiculous number of dice. So I got just a stupid number of spells off, and you'll see that when we cut over to the fight because I just laid all the cards in front of him. But we go into combat over here, and the Pistoliers managed to show me what they're worth and take out the Casket of Souls. Now I think the Casket of Souls is supposed to explode when you kill it, and I'll be honest, we forgot to do that. I only think that because I've seen it do that in other people's battle reports today, but we totally forgot it. Then over here, the Knights totally finished destroying his BSB on the chariot and turn and now face the flank of his prince on the Cimmerian War Sphinx. And so you can see I got Van Hale's Dance Macabre, Speed of Light, Hellish Vigor. I think I got another light spell off. It was pretty ridiculous, the number of spells I got off. But at this point, my Lord finishes off Morgul, and we do another like 8 wounds or so. They're still steadfast and they're holding, but this unit's just getting chewed up. So we go into top of 4, and just to prove that their luck can actually get worse, Cimmerian War Sphinx tried to charge the Spirit Host to sort of hit it and get the hell out of dodge, and ended up rolling double ones for his charge distance, failing the charge, and ending up right where you see him. So he's not going to escape from the pain. And here's a better shot. You see all 4 of the buff spells that are on my unit. But he ends up charging the Gorgon into the side here. I still am not all that afraid. With all the buffs this unit has, I even think the normal Black Knights are going to end up eating Morgul for lunch, or Zola for lunch. So during shooting, he tries to lob a skull catapult on my knights that are off to the right. It ends up drifting so far that it hits the Pistoliers and kills one of them, but they don't fail their panic check, so they're fine. And then in combat over here, I do some wounds to Zola, but just absolutely open up, because now, last turn I think he challenged out with his champion, but now he has no challenges left, and Lord Mounthaven just, by himself, did something like 9 or 10 wounds to the unit. So that unit had like 4 guys left in it, and it broke and ran, but I couldn't pursue, because Zola's still in the combat. And this is the point where my opponents decided to surrender. They kind of realized the writing was on the wall. There's really not much else they had left. And I still have, I think the only thing they actually killed was a unit of dogs. 2 units of dogs, maybe. And the Hex Wraiths. So yeah, 2 units of dogs and a Hex Wraith. So I've still got most of my army. So let's go ahead and get into the wrap-up. As the last of the Beastmen were routed from the field, a crimson-armored figure wheeled his horse around and approached the Imperial lines. Felix Weishoff, mage and second in command of the forces of Loningsbrook, came forth to meet him. The armored figure raised his visor, revealing the pale white face of one long dead. He gave a slight nod of respect to the mage. "So, Weishoff, you now see that all is as I have spoken to you. The forces of chaos are growing and gathering more allies." Felix nodded. He could not deny the events had played out just as the vampire had predicted. Had they not joined forces, the Beastmen and their Nehekaran allies would have swept into Loningsbrook. But despite all this, Felix was uncertain of allying himself with Lord Alessandro Mounthaven, one of the most notorious vampires in the history of the Grey Mountains. "You were right," Felix said at last. "And your assistance in holding off the attackers was most welcome. But what will this aid cost us in the future?" "My master, like yours, has no love for the Chaos Beasts, nor for the fools of Nehekara. Standing as one against them serves both our causes. Is that not enough?" "It might be," Felix responded, "if you can be trusted to keep your word." The ancient vampire bristled at the insult, but remained calm. "I am Lord Alessandro Mounthaven, Knight of the Red Moon, Master of the domain of Sudamont. My oath and my word have bound me stronger than the mortal coil itself. I have given my pledge to aid you against the Chaos Beasts. If that is not enough for you, mage, I will take my leave, after we have settled the matter of your insult to my honor." Felix saw the pride in the eyes of the vampire, and saw death promised there as well. He bowed slightly. "Forgive me, Lord Mounthaven. I intended no disrespect. It's simply that I'm not used to honorable dealings with your kind." "Of course not," Mounthaven replied with the barest look of sorrow on his face. "Most of my kind would not know of honor if it staked them through the heart." Felix was unsure if this was a joke by Mounthaven, but didn't want to insult the vampire further, so he just nodded. "Well, let us go to Loningsbrook, then, and speak of this alliance with the Archlector. I'm sure he'll welcome your aid against the Beastmen once we tell him of this battle." Mounthaven nodded and began to move his undead forces towards the town. As Felix watched, he wondered where this new alliance would take them, and if anyone would be alive at the end of it all to question his judgment. So, pretty smashing victory for the combined forces of the Empire and the Vampire Counts. As far as the lists went, I was actually pretty happy with mine. I think I was able to kind of balance out the weaknesses of each other fairly well. As far as my opponent's lists, I just think they brought a few too many toys and just not enough bodies. I particularly with the Tomb Kings, you just need a big bus of spearmen or something to kind of hold things up to get to get your toys into combat. And he just didn't have that. The unit he was hiding his Hierophant in was just terribly small, so I was able to kill him off fairly easy with magic and shooting. Now, on the plus side, their leadership was high enough where he didn't crumble too much, but he was definitely hurting from the lack of that level 4 mage early on. And speaking of magic, wow, the new Khaine rules, they're pretty solid. Or I guess solid might not be the best word. Maybe abusable. Just being able to have one mage and just sit there and spam every spell you know. It's rough. That many dice. Just there were several times where my opponents had plenty of the dice in the pool, and I rolled 3 dice to get the spell off, and they only got 1 die to dispel it, so there was nothing they could do to stop me. The other thing that occurred to me is you get really screwed with that if you don't have any mages. Because, I mean, they were getting, by the time I killed their wizards, they were getting 1 dice to my 3 plus 4 because I was throwing a level 4 mage. So I ended up getting off a lot more spells than I would have given any other magical configuration. The other thing that it kind of sucked is that it was very difficult to get off any high magic spells. Anything like 12 or above, I tried throwing the dice at them, and I would never get enough dice to cast. So, it just didn't do much. The other thing that we found was interesting, and I don't know how we'll end up playing this in the future. The Lore of Light end time spell specifies that it has 1 effect against forces of order and 1 effect against forces of chaos. But we notice none of the combined armies in the end times books, even up until Khaine, tells whether the armies are forces of chaos or forces of destruction or forces of order. So there was a little bit of a debate on how we would handle that at the beginning, but that's kind of an oversight that, I mean, if you're playing a combined army of the Phoenix Emperor, but you got mostly Dark Elves in it, are you Order or Chaos? Or Nagash. I mean, Undead United. Nagash is technically a force of order. I mean, is he not standing against the forces of chaos? Does he count as order or destruction? I don't know. Just some questions. But all in all, it's going to be interesting to see where the union of the Vampire Counts and the Empire goes. Kind of feel bad for poor Felix getting buddy with Lord Alessandro, but we'll kind of see where that takes him. All in all, it was a fun game. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. Please like and subscribe. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we will catch you next time. Thanks.